Making It Work is brought to you by Wealthsimple, which gives everyone access to simple, affordable investing on cruise control.
After her layoff, my wife and I were left to rely mostly on my very meager salary to make ends meet. She would play music usually once a month on the side and was in the process of opening up a small brewery, but our financial situation was taking a toll on our relationship. We didn't have money to go out and hang with friends. We didn't have money for gas sometimes. We were sharing her 12-year-old Toyota Tacoma. We owned a small home, which was fortunate for us. We eventually learned a lot of ways to save and made sure to check in with each other emotionally along the way. A year later, we are in the process of buying a new home, we own 2 cars, and I'm free from my private student loan debt. We made all this happen with a few hiccups along the way, but we came through relatively unscathed. Here's how. Number 1, we didn't ignore our spending habits. When I became the breadwinner for our family on a barely above $30,000 budget, I was scared and began to feel burdened. Unlike my wife, who lived with low debts on her credit cards and student loans, I was carrying a hefty $100,000 in student loans. My payments on those were higher than what we both paid for the entirety of the mortgage. I didn't understand why I didn't have any money left over after paychecks until a friend recommended that we try out a financial tracking app. It was so useful. We learned that we were eating out way more than we had originally thought, and that our travel spending was a bit outrageous. Taking stock of where our money was going was helpful in leading us toward financial health. Number 2, we learned from our risk-taking and our mistakes. After adopting a puppy, we decided it was time to upsize and sell our home. By this time, my wife had come into full-time work, so it was a bit less scary, but we were still working on paying off other debts. We sold the beater car I had bought to get me through the summer in order to cover some of the costs. We then began to save small amounts, and in December, we purchased a brand new car. But in an unfortunate bout of bad luck, we got in a terrible accident in our old Tacoma the very next day, thanks to hitting a patch of black ice. After realizing we were medically okay, we remembered that we had just had our credit pulled twice and were not able to pull it a third time while in the process of selling our home and buying another. So we purchased a car off Craigslist with the insurance money from the accident, but later we found out that the car we bought was on a fraudulent title and that it came from a different state than we were told. We were, very fortunately, able to purchase a family member's old car, but we learned a huge lesson. Really think through your big financial decisions. We are 2 women who know cars, but even then, the wool was pulled right over our eyes. Number 3, we didn't starve ourselves, figuratively or literally. Splurging on getting a puppy has brought nothing but positive energy to our lives, and so has being realistic about the other things that give us joy. Making such a big decision caused me to evaluate myself and my worth in my career. I looked through my employee handbook and took the steps necessary to ask for a reevaluation of my salary, and it worked. Being afraid to ask for what I deserved was holding me back, but it was easy for my supervisor to hear, and it gave us the opportunity to pocket a little more toward saving. We loved to travel, but we knew the way we were doing it before wasn't working for us. Instead, we made plans to stay semi-local and drive to places that we wanted to see, bringing food from home and camping gear we already owned. We saw the other cities that were hubs for airlines and made inexpensive round-trip visits to see friends. We know the things that bring us joy are worth it. And similarly to over-restrictive diets, when you keep yourself from spending on something, you become more likely to binge. We are admittedly guilty of splurging occasionally, but it's nowhere where it could be had we ignored giving ourselves small pleasures here and there. Number 4, we didn't avoid the difficult conversations. When we sold our previous home, technically it was under my wife's name. I paid half of everything, but upon purchase it was her money that made the down payment and my name was not on the title. We discuss this often, and in our marriage, we truly function as what's mine is yours. We do all joint purchases and spending from one account. And to her, me putting into that account every month meant that the home was equally mine. So when the home sold, my wife said that no questions asked, part of the profits we made from the sale were going to pay off the $21,000 I had in private loans. All of it. Coming from a poor background, I was not comfortable being cared for in such a massive way, but my wife saw it as a way for us to afford more home later. After a lot of heartfelt discussion and a few tears, we came to the same conclusion. Paying off these loans was the right move for both of us. My wife used part of the profits of the sale to pay off her credit card debt as well, and we both ended up on top. It also gave us the chance to practice something that doesn't often come up in the day-to-day. Conversations with deep meaning, asking us to look far into the future. We are now prepared to dive into the second home, using the rest of our profits from the sale on basic renovations. I think this is the most important step toward making large financial changes. In being serious and honest with ourselves, we can make positive changes that we never saw possible. I'll be 30 in a year and a half, and I still can't believe that I will own a home, a car, and no private student loan debt. Thankfully, after a few years of fumbles and lessons learned, I am going to be able to make even greater strides toward financial stability moving forward.
If you're looking to take greater control of your own financial life, it's easier than you think to get started. With a company like Wealthsimple, you can open an account and start putting your money to work today. Wealthsimple is online investing that's as simple and human as it gets. In just 5 minutes, they'll build you a custom portfolio to fit your personal goals and timeline. Just answer a few easy questions and they'll manage your money for you on autopilot. Set it, forget it, and let your money grow in the background. You can turn on automatic deposits as well as set up a smart savings account with higher rates than big banks for your shorter-term goals, your wedding, your next great adventure, or that handbag you need. They also have a socially responsible portfolio that invests in green stocks and companies that support gender diversity. The fees are much lower than big banks, and TFD viewers will get their first $10,000 managed for free with no minimum deposit. Check them out at wealthsimple.com/TFD or use the link in our description. There are no account minimums, and it only takes a few minutes to start. No excuses.